Thanks to our sponsors. Goods and services used in a production of Hangin' Out with Dee were brought to you by...
You've got a friend in me.
Hey guys, I'm Dee Harris. Welcome to another episode of Hanging Out with Dee. And today I'm super excited to be hanging out with my friend Sherry Winston. Welcome, Sherry.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Dee,
Yes.
and I am very excited about being
Really
here this
excited.
morning.
So let me tell my friends about you. Sherry is an internationally acclaimed award-winning jazz flutist, and she's author of the new book For Lovers Only that we have here. And she has played for Stevie Wonder. She has played at the White House for former President Bill Clinton. She is super amazing. We're really honored to have you. And later on in the show, she's going to show us how to make her famous, sexy For Lovers Only chicken wings. Well, before we get into it, let's find out a little bit more about you. So, you grew up in New York.
I did. I grew up in Corona, Queens.
Yeah.
And it was a middle class to lower class neighborhood. Fabulous place to grow up.
Yes. And you said you had working parents. Your mom was a secretary, your dad was a postal worker.
Yes, my mom actually worked her way up to a financial analyst at Union Carbide from being a secretary without a college education.
Unbelievable.
So she was an amazing woman.
Yes.
And
Yes.
my dad was a musician in addition to being a postman, so
That's
he
where you
helped
got
put me
it.
through college,
Yes.
partially by playing his instrument with
Wow.
his band in the evenings.
Unbelievable.
So as a child, I remember him coming in at 3 o'clock in the morning and then getting up at 5 o'clock to go deliver mail. So he lived his dream, he lived his passion, and did both, and, you know, took care of the family. So he was also
how
an amazing
wonderful.
person.
What was your dad's name?
Charles Winston.
Shout out to Charles Winston and your mom,
Jocelyn Winston.
Jocelyn Winston, wherever they are. That's beautiful. So you studied music at Howard University.
I did, and you know, Howard was an amazing place for me because of all the wonderful opportunities that I had there. I was able to run for class president, I was able to be in the band, the orchestra, the marching band. I could do whatever I wanted there. There were no limitations on me because of race, gender, or anything else. So it was such a freeing experience.
And that was a racially tough time, right, when you were going
It was. It
to
really was a
university?
racially tough time. And in my high school, just for a small example, it was impossible for me to be a cheerleader. You know, and for a young girl, that was like very important
Painful,
to be like out there, you know, with the team, rooting them on and doing your little dance steps. And no African American had ever been on any of the cheerleading squads. So we just knew that was just off limits to us. And at Howard, you could just do anything you wanted to do and know that your ability and your talent could take you
Would
to
speak for you.
limitless places.
Absolutely.
Very, very freeing environment for me.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So what made you choose the flute as your instrument? You could have played, did your father play the flute? What
No,
made you
he
choose
was a saxophonist and a singer. He played several saxophones. But I always say the flute picked me. I didn't pick the flute. I was a tomboy, so I wanted to play the drums.
Yes.
And they lined us up alphabetically. So with the last name Winston, I was at the end of the line.
Yes.
And by the time they got to me, the trumpet, the drums, all what I thought were cool instruments were gone.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
there were 2 instruments left, the flute and the tuba.
Oh,
And
clearly not the tuba.
When
Too
I
big.
looked in the corner and I saw the tuba, it was just, it was rusty and it was huge. It was almost
too
as big
big.
as I was.
Yes.
I just said, well, whatever the flute is, I'll take
That's
the
what you're
flute.
going to take?
Yeah.
I love that
So,
story.
and then the interesting thing, I was the worst one in the class. I just could not get a sound out of the flute.
Oh, my
and just determination, and I was so stubborn. I just kept practicing it, and finally I could, you know, at least get a sound out of it.
And look at you now, right? Playing for Bill Clinton and playing with Stevie Wonder.
Well,
Amazing.
you know, it just goes to show you that however you start out in life is not how you have to finish. It's
Hello,
up to
girl.
you.
Come on. That's right. Okay. So after you left college, you said you went into social work in New York for 8 years. Why would you do that?
I did.
Tell us about it.
Well, you know, my dream was to become a working musician, but I actually had no clue how to do that.
Yes.
So there was in the New York Times, there was an ad for social workers. Actually, they called it caseworkers at the Times.
Yes.
For the city of New York, and I knew I had to move out of my parents' house and become a freewheeling person,
Yes.
you know, a real adult.
Yes.
And I passed the exam for that, and the person that interviewed me said, you know what? You're not the type of person to be going up the staircase in people's homes and finding out all of their business, so we think we're going to put you with older people.
Oh.
And I wound up working with the elderly, which
very
was,
nice.
it was really unbelievable. It was a great experience,
Oh,
but
wonderful.
it stifled me a little bit as an artist, so eventually I did have to get out of there.
And get into it. Talk about that. You talked about volunteering being your avenue into getting in there and starting as a receptionist.
Right. You know, in any field, you have to start at the bottom because you
Yeah.
really don't know the industry.
Correct.
So I started out as a receptionist. I had to take a typing test of all things. And, you know, my typing wasn't great because I didn't study that in school.
Exactly.
You know, since
You
high
studied
school,
music,
I hadn't
yes.
studied typing. And the woman said, you know what, you're accurate, but you're very slow. So I'm going to let you take the test home. You know, go home, practice typing, come back, and then retake the test because you have to do at least 60 words a minute.
Yes.
So I was home furiously typing and what have you. And I did finally pass that
Oh,
test.
wonderful.
Became a receptionist. And the volunteering part, if someone would come to the desk while I was working and say, you know, this evening, do you know of anybody, or could you possibly help me stuff envelopes? And I said, of course, I'd love to help you stuff envelopes. And I'd be there an hour, 2 hours helping this person, one of the executives, stuff envelopes. Or, you know, my secretary's sick. Do you think you could type up some? Oh, sure, I'd love to do that. And I kept volunteering to do things. I always had a pleasant attitude, and I knew
Yes.
that being nasty or upset wouldn't
That's
get me
not gonna take you
anywhere.
anywhere, no.
Right.
No.
So that allowed me to be the first person considered when a new job came up. They opened up a new division called Jazz Fusion. This was the beginning of the whole Jazz Fusion movement.
Yeah.
And I started working for two guys, one guy in pop music and the other in jazz. Just loved it. And again, I continued to volunteer, stay late, work on weekends, whatever was necessary. And from that, I was offered a position in college promotion. And that just grew from a local college rep to a regional college rep to eventually a national college rep.
Unbelievable.
And then because of my reputation of doing a good job with that, Clive Davis, one of his employees,
The manager of
called me.
Whitney Houston.
Right, exactly. Well,
Yes.
actually, he ran Arista Records.
Yeah.
He had been at Columbia
owner.
Records and
Yeah.
had a reputation that was absolutely out of this world for making stars out of very, very successful people, and then
Yes.
helping those who were maybe, you know, at a point in their career where they needed to either come back, like Aretha Franklin,
Yes.
and start fresh.
He helped,
And he
yeah.
he was amazing, just amazing. So I was hired at double my salary to work for him as the head of his
Unbelievable.
jazz department.
Yes.
And that just took me on a whole nother path.
Yes, what a powerful story about volunteering, humility, a servant heart, and where that can take you.
You
That's
know, and if
unbelievable.
you're a college graduate, or if you feel that, God, I can't be a receptionist or a secretary, I went to school for 4 years, or I have a master's degree, whatever your story might have to be, it's irrelevant. You have to just go for it.
Start somewhere.
Start anywhere. If you don't know the industry that you're trying to get in, just be willing to start fresh, and your brains and your determination will take you where
Where
you're
you need
supposed
to
be.
go. Where
Exactly.
you need to go. That is just incredible. Incredible. So what made you want to write a book about food?
Well, you know, I've really cooked all of my life. From the time I was a little girl, my mom used to call me on the phone while she was working, and she'd say, Sherry, start the potatoes. And I'd say, Mom, I don't know how to do that. And she'd say, okay, peel the potatoes and then cut them into quarters and put it in a pot, heat the pot. Don't cook the potatoes too long. Take a fork and stick the potato. And then she would go through these things. Okay, I'd like you to make pork chops tonight. And I'd say, Mom, I don't know how to do that. And she'd instruct me over the phone. And when she came home, I had the dinner made.
Wow.
And she was working, my dad was working, I was home.
Wow.
And it was an incredible opportunity for me to help feed the family.
I love that. Stick a pin right there. All right, guys, it's time for Dee's life question. All right, Sherry, who are your mentors growing up?
My parents were actually my mentors.
Yeah.
And I think about a story of my mom when I started playing flute.
Yeah.
And I had this solo in school. It was going to be my first solo, and it was playing a whole note. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how long the note lasts.
Okay.
Well, when I finished playing that note at the end of the concert, my mom came over and, oh, she was screaming. And she said, "You were the best one in the whole band. You just killed that note. It was fantastic."
You killed that one note.
And I actually believed her.
Yes.
That kept me going. I felt like, oh my God, I'm really fantastic. I can really play this instrument. I was just learning how to play. But her enthusiasm for me, for anything that I wanted to do. And I say both parents because I used to watch television and I'd see Sea Hunt, I'd see Lloyd Bridges, you know, scuba diving, and I'd see people jumping horses, and I didn't realize our financial circumstances, so I'd tell my mom, "Mom, I really want to take riding lessons." And somehow they would scrape the money together for me to take riding lessons. I mean, I was treated like I was a princess. I had ballet lessons, I had piano lessons. I had
these
every
were
lesson.
working class people.
These were working class
Yeah.
people. It was very difficult for this to do, for them to do that for me, and they made immense sacrifices
to make it happen.
And as an adult, I look back and I realize them putting me through Howard University. I didn't have a scholarship to go to Howard. My dad had to, every month, every quarter, come up with that money.
Yes.
So he did what he had to do to make that happen.
Yes.
And it was incredible. I had no student debt. I hear about kids with $100,000, $150,000 student debt, and my heart goes out to them because when I came out of college, pretty much the world was my oyster. I could do whatever I want. I didn't have this thing hanging over me of paying back this tremendous amount
What a
of money.
gift.
It was a gift.
What a gift. And then there is this quote that I found on your website, which I really love. Put it up for me, Dill. It says, "Man cannot live by work alone. Take time for your passions and your work will be transformed." What does that mean?
Well, it means to really live your dream.
Yeah.
To take what's in your heart, take the gifts that God has given you and work with them. It's not always easy to do that. It's easy to go get the first job that you find and stay there for 20, 25, 30 years. But to catapult yourself into something that really makes your heart sing, that's the hard thing in life. To me, that's the test that God gives us.
Absolutely.
What do you do with that? Do you take it and take it to the next level?
Beautiful.
So man has to do what's in his heart.
Love
and it's
it.
up to us to do that. Nobody can give that to us. It's something that we have to take and run with.
All right, second high five. Love it. And then I want you to tell me the story, your greatest life lesson from one of your toughest experiences.
That again gets back to living my dream. I was fired at Columbia University for putting out my own CD.
At Columbia Records.
Columbia Records, not university, right? Records. And
For putting out your own CD, they fired you?
Right.
Wow.
So they considered it a conflict of interest. And, you know, I had many mixed feelings about that. But the biggest feeling that I had purchased a home in Connecticut. I had an apartment in New York, and it was like, oh my God, how am I going to pay for all of this?
Yes.
Do I have to let my house go? Do I have to let my apartment go? What can I do? And, you know, I just centered myself and thought, if I take all the energy that I have put into the 30 artists that I'm in charge of at Columbia and put that into myself and work as diligently a normal 9 to 5 work day or 10 to 6 or maybe even till 9 and 10 o'clock at night, I can make this work.
Yes.
And I just had to have faith in myself that I could do that. And it was really one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make, whether to go back into the record industry and work for another company to try to find another position, or
whether
to really
to make
trust
your own
in myself.
business work. Yes.
And thank God, 26 years later, I'm sitting here as a working musician, not doing anything else.
High five. Number 3. That's awesome. All right, guys.
I'm really happy about my choice.
Yes, proud of you. All right, guys, it's time for I Don't Like That Man. All right, guys, we're going to find out what gets on Sherry Winston's last nerve. You said you hate people being late, Sherry.
You know, my dad raised me that, and also my brother, we had to be punctual.
Yes.
If we had to be somewhere in a half hour, we left 45 minutes early.
That's right.
So I have this thing about people being late and not calling to let you know what, I'm running a little late because I'm stuck in traffic. There was a car accident.
Something.
This happened. My mom called me and I really had to talk to her. Whatever it is, and this way I can back up my time and stay wherever I am and do what I have to do.
And it shows respect.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the other thing is people that RSVP to a concert or to a book signing or whatever, and maybe you have a limited amount of people that can come to that book signing.
Yes.
And then they don't show up and they don't call you to let you know what, the four of us won't be able to attend, so
maybe somebody else could come before more people. Yes.
So that is a little aggravating.
A little aggravating.
Do I get one more?
You get one more.
Okay. The other thing is people that will not return phone calls, texts, or emails. And that seems to be prevalent today in business.
It is very prevalent.
Years ago, maybe 20 years ago, people would return your phone calls. And now they don't. They don't have any compunction about not being in touch.
I love that word, compunction. I love that.
And if you've called them 4 or 5 times, there's a reason that you're doing that.
Correct.
Something is important.
Correct.
So how do you reach this person?
Yeah.
Do you take them off your list? Do you just move on?
I take them off my list.
Yeah, that's eventually what you have to do.
I do that in my business.
It's unfortunate because
I give you 3. I
Yeah.
give you 3. I give you strike 3. I mean, the first time, you could have been sick. The second time, maybe you had an emergency. The third time, I'm done.
Yeah, there does come a point where you have to say enough.
Yeah. That's lovely, wonderful.
So those are my little pet peeves.
I agree, and I agree with all of them, man. All right, Sherry Winston does not like that man. Now it's time for What in the World? Okay, Sherry, what in the world? Talk to us about your what in the worlds.
Well, you know, I read recently in the New York Times about this gentleman that was worth $130 million, and he went to jail for insider trading. And they decided to let him out 6 months early. And I just read this over and over. This was a Harvard graduate. And I just said, wait a second, there are so many men that are languishing in jail that have gotten there for various reasons. I'm not saying they're all angels, but maybe they did some kind of petty crime. Maybe they were smoking some marijuana. Maybe they were doing something else. They have to do their complete sentence. And it just struck me that, you know, there are people that are being harmed in jail by others, unfortunately, intimidated, that live these horrible lives in jail. And my heart went out to them. And I thought, here's this guy who's in a special jail where he never has to worry about intimidation or anybody bothering him, and he's going to get out of jail on his own recognizance
early for a proven crime.
Right, exactly. And the other thing that annoys me are people that are running for office and they talk about other people in a disparaging way.
Yes.
In negative, hurtful ways. You know, unless you're an American Indian in the United States of America.
Exactly. You migrated here.
You came here some way. You were not born here.
That's right.
And yet some people want to throw up walls and keep others out. And I just can't understand that. We're known as a wonderful place to be. People want to come here for the betterment, economic development, for religious reasons, for political reasons. There's so many reasons that people
What in the world? What in the world? Sherry does not like that, guys. And I agree with her. All right, now we're going to see a fabulous video of Sherry playing. Check it out, after which she's going to cook some chicken wings for us, guys.
Doing Clifford Brown Jazz Festival. We are so happy to be here tonight. We'd like to do something from the Life is Love and Love is You CD called Joy. Okay, come on now, you gotta help us out up here. This is gonna be kind of funky up here. On this beautiful June night. All right, Delaware, this is for you.
You bring us so much peace and joy and happiness. That's what you do for us, Sherry. You bring us so much peace and joy and happiness. That's what you do for us, Sherry.
Cool. That was awesome, Cher.
Thank you,
Beautiful
Dee.
playing.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So now we're gonna get a recipe from her book. It's actually the picture on the book. She's gonna show us how to make some delicious chicken wings. But first, tell us, how long did it take you to write this book?
Only 19 years.
Only 19 years. How come it took you 19 years?
Well, you know, Dee, in my mind, I wanted to go the traditional route of getting a publisher, getting an agent.
Yeah.
And I faced a lot of obstacles. I got a lot of rejection from agents. I got a lot of rejections once I did get an agent from publishers. And I kind of got disgusted. I started making CDs. I was booking my band. I was
Yeah,
performing,
focused on
doing
your
other
music.
things. And I put the book down. And about 3 years ago, I picked the manuscript back up. And I said, my God, how can I let all of this work just sit here and go to waste? It's crazy. It's too many hours at night working on it. I've got to get back to it and have the discipline to finish this.
Why a cookbook for lovers only?
Well, a cookbook first because, as I mentioned, I love to cook.
Yes, and your mom was a big influence.
And I just wanted to get that part of me out there. I wanted to have something that was very simple for people to make, not complicated. In this world today, people are working, they have all of these pressures on them. They want to do something fast
and quick.
And I want to tell people how to, if they have takeout, how to spice it up, how to make it their own. If they want to have breakfast in bed and not turn on the stove, how to do that.
All right, go for it, Cher.
Okay.
Show them.
So, my famous recipe for chicken wings.
Yes.
You start with some Poupon mustard.
Poupon mustard.
You add your dry ingredients, which are your spices.
Yep.
And I also have some chopped cilantro and some chopped fresh flat parsley.
Okay.
So we've got all kinds of good things in here. We've got a little chili powder. We have a little bit of herbe de Provence. We've got tarragon. And then we're going to get that smoothed out a little bit with some fresh lime juice. You can use lime or lemon juice.
Okay.
And then we're going to add some chopped garlic.
Which smells so good. The whole
Oh
studio
boy, this will
smells
light up the whole
delicious.
studio.
Yes.
And then if it's still just a hair too thick, we're going to add a little bit of chicken stock.
Okay.
And we're going to stir that until it's nice and loose.
Yes. Just like that.
And then we're going to add it to our chicken wings. And this is the easy part.
Yeah.
And we're going to pop it in the oven. We're going to put on the broiler.
And how many degrees?
Well, it is on broil, so
Okay.
it's as high as it can
Very
go.
high, okay.
You have to have it so that it is not too close to the flame, otherwise you will burn your chicken
Correct.
wings, but about mid-level.
Yeah.
You have to watch them because they will burn.
Yes.
And then you're going to actually save half of this liquid for when you turn your chicken wings over,
And then you baste it with it.
and then you're going to have all of that goodness again added to it.
Got it.
So once it's all done,
Yes.
you can flip it over. Each
Yeah.
chicken wing, you have to be very careful getting
Yeah.
it out of the oven. And then your guests are going to be so delighted, because who doesn't like chicken wings?
Nobody. I
It's
don't
the
know who doesn't like
perfect
chicken wings.
appetizer.
Yep.
It can be a main course if
Yep.
you want to add some black-eyed peas and rice from Jamaica.
From Jamaica.
With some pigeon peas.
Yes.
You can add some collard greens.
And
You
it's
can
good
add a
for
nice fresh
football, for
salad.
those people who football season
Of
is coming
course.
up.
So all of these things you can do with chicken wings. It can be a little snack.
Yeah.
When you're entertaining someone, you can have this just as a little taster.
All right,
when
let's
they
see the
first
finished
walk
product
in.
so we can eat it all up.
And then the biggest thing is your presentation. You can either chop up your fresh hot peppers, or you can leave them whole.
Yes.
And then I have a little bit of parsley there just for the green. You want to add a little
You
bit
want
of color to your
Appeal
dish.
to the eyes. Yes.
What
All
would
right.
you think about tasting one of these?
I am so hungry right now. That is a very good idea. All right, let's eat together, Cher.
I'm going to let you enjoy it.
Gonna let me enjoy it?
I'm going to let you enjoy
All right,
it.
guys. Delicious, soft, so well seasoned. I love it.
Thank you. And
right,
it's
guys.
got a little cayenne pepper in there from the Jamaican
I love that.
spice that you
I
love.
love that. I love that. Very delicious. Guys,
you.
one love, Cher.
One love.
One love, everyone. See you next time. Bye.